Okay, so what we're going to look at here is Clo3d. What it does is it allows us to see a garment and a design in 3 dimension, look at top, bottom, where the shoulders meet, where the side seams meet. And you can see the pattern pieces on the right. There's the tops, the pants, the sleeves, and the collar. And then over on the left-hand side, you can see how all the piece works in 3 dimensions. What's interesting is you can go in and start to work on this. So taking the textile tool, you can go in and take the plaid that's in there. And as you can watch moving around, you can change the scale. You can see it happening both on the right and the left at the same time. So already just changing the scale of the pattern significantly changes what that design looks like. There's also cool things like you can take the pattern and switch and put it on a bias so that it cuts across the pattern or cuts across the body. And you can actually lay it very specifically so everything lines up in the same place. And of course, you would want to do that the same on the backside as you do on the front. And then what's cool is because it's in 3D, you can actually start to spin it. And what happens, that side seam's not meeting so great. I kind of didn't want the dark green meeting up with the white. So that allows me to go back in and adjust a little bit the placement of the piece on the back so that actually those colors will match up a little bit better. I can check it around the top, around the shoulders, side seams and arms, and see if it looks good. So another thing you can do is you can start to adjust the pattern itself and change its size. So I'm just gonna move these pants out of the way so that I have a little bit more room to work on the top. So these tools on here are a lot like the Illustrator tools, like the pen tool in Illustrator, where you can see the dots and handles on there, the points and the handles, really similar in Illustrator. So when you change the patterns on the right, on the flat pattern side, you can immediately see some changes over on the left-hand side. But it takes a little bit more energy for the computer to actually figure out the way gravity would affect the pieces of fabrics. So you have to push the simulate button, which then adds the effects of gravity and makes things hang the way they would actually hang in real life. Pattern that I just had the stitching partway down because it had slits because it was narrow, but now I want to stitch it down the entire side. So I'm going to go in and restitch those sides all the way down. So I thought it might be interesting to mess around with the bottom hem, maybe give it a little bit of a curve. Maybe mess with the length a little bit, just to try out some different options. And if I find something I like, I can just take a screenshot of it so I can always come back to it. Try it out straighter. And then I'm going to play with the collar a bit to just stretch that up, make it a little bit taller. The right and the left are linked together so that as I adjust the right, the left automatically adjusts as well. So I'm going to adjust both of those collar pieces so they line up together. You can see the little red lines that show up on the screen to show where I'm matching things. And then that hooks up. You can see what happens on the collar in 3D in real time on the piece on the left. And then simulate it so it all goes back in. And then you see how it's going to hang. So just to make it different, I'll change the collar color too. And then you can start to see what it looks like all the way around. Still looks a little heavy to me, so I'm going to go in and change the sleeves. I'm going to move my pattern pieces out of the way a little bit so I can get in there. And same thing, just like the Illustrator pen tool, I can take the parts and move them around. If I select just the point moves. If I use the solid triangle at the top, it will actually select the whole piece. But if I use the open triangle at the top, just like the open arrow, It just selects one point at a time. And I'm using my Bezier curve exactly the same way as we do in Illustrator to curve off that, to curve off the bottom of that sleeve to make it just a little bit cleaner. It's still just a little bit long, so I'm going to shorten it even more underneath the sleeve just to pull it up. And you can see it happening again in real time on the piece on the left as you do in the piece, as you're seeing the flat patterning that's happening on the right. And here I'm going to clean up just a little bit. I don't like that point in the middle, so I'm going to delete the point, and all of a sudden that turns into a much nicer straight line. And I'm thinking maybe it's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to pull that in just a bit. See the threads where they stitch back and forth, showing you that that's what's going to be stitched together. I hit the simulate button and it's all stitched. Straighten it out a little bit and we're ready to rock and roll. There you go. I have a completely new design. I did do a little editing on this video and a few things are sped up just to make it a little bit nicer um, to watch. But all in all, this took me less than 25 minutes, including a number of like side streets I went down that I didn't really do anything with it. I was just messing around or couldn't find the tool, but including all of that together, this was about 25 minutes to get from that first image to the last.